I started working on this roof some more. I got some oil can in here. I need to shrink that, but I put a brace here in the front, tack that in. I used a straight edge and cut this whole thing back here. I put another brace right here, so the roof will lay on this and I can weld to this flat part. I got it done on both sides, all the way front to back. I found out one of the things that one of my problems with the welding helmet is I had a really chewed up screen protector. Man, this thing keeps banging my head. So I fixed that. My welds are a little better. At least I can see what I'm doing now. But this is pretty much all flat. The problem was this was curved, and so when I bent this over and welded it, I left kind of a hump, so this would be humped up and then flat. So I've kind of knocked this down, but I think what's going to happen is going to get some kind of oil canning in here, just like this side. But anyway, I've got a good solid place to weld the edge to. I can mark this center piece here, and it's going to be all right here in the back. This thing here, I got this level with this bent square piece. This is up about 1/2 inch. This is up 1/2 inch. But this was a straight piece. It just goes straight to here, then bends. I don't know if this is going to be too high or what's going to happen. I started measuring again. Right here is my center line. It's off about 1/2 inch from where the bracing is. But anyway, I got this roof ready to put another piece of metal on it. I'll have to go in here and grind off some of these wells where they're sticking out too far, and I should be able to get a pretty decent roof piece on here. And it's going to have some bends in it, but it's a rat rod. Do the best we can. I kind of hit a snag here. There's so much little stuff to do on this that little painstaking details. And the major project I got here is this trunk. I rust converted it. I got to make some kind of a hinge, and it looks like the best way to do it is put a bolt into this 1/2 inch piece here, and it's if you look here from the edge, and it's almost right on the edge. So it'd be right here. I've got some metal in here. So I think I can weld a plate into this part, strengthen it up. I'm not sure where this 1/2 inch piece is. I think it's about right here somewhere. So I may not be able to put a bolt here or a hinge right here. I need to move it in a half an inch at least. I'm probably better off with an inch. So right here is where it's at now. And I would need to put the hinge about right here. So maybe that's what I'll do, is just weld another half-inch piece in here. Weld a bolt on it, sticking out, and I'll have to, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Got to be able to take it off. But anyway, I think that's what I got to do. In the meanwhile, I'm making this edge a little bit more solid here. I welded in a little piece of 16 gauge. And I'll cut this off and grind it. I should have some kind of a pretty good surface there, and then I'll go over there to the other side and do the same thing. Alright, there's the driver's side done. I put a plate in there and bent it at a 45, welded it in. Ground this one down. I didn't really finish it up. This is all below the trunk, but I just wanted to make this corner strong here. I need to cut that off there. And I'll probably clean this up a little better and get my angles where they match the corners, and weld another plate in there. I've got the half inches behind it, but it wouldn't hurt nothing to have a, like a 1-inch piece of 16 gauge all the way across there. That would make this bottom lip stronger. And looks like I'm starting to get a pretty good flat spot here where I can mount me a hinge. Anyway, that got this one moving again. I couldn't figure out what to do, so I just figured I'll just fix whatever's screwed up on it and move along. But I'm pretty sure this is gonna work. I'm gonna put the hinge about right here somewhere above this hole, and right at the edge I'm gonna weld a plate. This is pretty strong. I'm gonna weld another plate on it, and a pretty thick one, probably 1/4 inch or something, and drill my hole in it. Still not exactly sure how I'm gonna make that hinge, but I do know I'm going to put a big plate back there, and I may Just put a bolt in it with some washers to space it out and a lock nut on it. That might be good enough. We'll see. Well, I got a couple clamps on here. I'm just going to spot weld this piece of metal. This is what I boxed the frame with. Got it cleaned up, clamped in. I'm just going to spot weld this right here along the edge, and once I get it all welded up, then I'll take a cut-off tool and cut it off there. But this should make that edge good and strong, and I've got it stuck inside the lip here, like about a ½ inch or so. So I think that's going to be good enough to reinforce that. We'll see. Anyway, I'll weld it up and we'll have a look at it. Well, that turned out pretty nice. I tacked it in there good, cut it off, ground it down. You can see back here it's real straight now. Yeah, you can see a little bit of places where I didn't weld it real good. I'm not going to waste a lot of weld on this. You'll never see it. I ground it off at an angle so I didn't cut into my weld here. I just basically wanted a good solid lip. I'll go ahead and put a piece in here and do the same thing. I think I'll stick it in the car and see what it looks like. Well, that looked fine. You can see the brace there, good and solid. I need to weld it a little bit more on the inside. Anyway, the next thing is try to figure out where this is going to be open. First thing I notice is if that rumble seat's open, you can't see out of the back. I've just got this stuck in here to where it's hitting the drip rail. I don't know how I'm going to hold it up. I suppose I can put a rope or something around that up there. Well, it looks like I got a good piece of metal up there. Where I'm at for any kind of center line. You know, this board here is pretty close. Don't know what I'm going to do. This hinge is going to have to go back 3 or 4 inches, and this there's no way that I can put it back resting here with this angle. May give up on the rumble seat idea. Let me see if I can move this around to where it's going to be close and then tie it up or something, see what I got. Well, it turned out that rafter's pretty close. Probably a few inches too high, but right there is where it's flush. don't know, man. That angle and everything would give me a kind of a place for a seat, but you know, it's 3 or 4 inches above the window. Don't know what to think about that. You know, it looks like it's about a foot too big for a rumble seat. I could make some kind of a sliding hinge, maybe, that would come forward and drop down. Put that hinge about 6-7 inches below the tail piece. I don't really like the way that looks at all. I suppose it would be good enough for a trunk, but even as a trunk, it don't give you a lot of room to bend over the fender and get anything out of here. It'd be really difficult to get a suitcase out. You know, you're standing here by the tire, you know, you can only put your hand in about halfway, and it would be pretty difficult to get something out of there. Maybe I can go back to the idea of hinging it from the front. But that's going to be a real problem, because this is sitting down inside. Let me move it around and see what I get. Well, this is kind of right at the edge. See, the problem is that this sticks down inside there, you know, an inch or so. So it'd be almost impossible to pull it straight up with a hinge. I would have to pull up and then slide forward and then hinge up. That makes a difficult situation. Suppose I could cut it in half. Can't hinge it from the side. Don't know. I 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 don't know. This is a tough one. I have to think about it a while. Well, that looks 100% better. It's just being held up again there, sitting inside the front of the trunk opening. It'll be kind of a pain to get that to rotate down. Most likely I'd have to cut off something, or let me put it down again and see what I got. Well, I may have made another bad assumption that the way this was wouldn't clear if I tried to lift it, but I've got it in here with a pretty good gap. This one up here is pretty good, and I just tacked a hinge in there, and it looks like that this may open up. Let me use both hands and see if I can get it open. Well, how about that? It did open. It was a little funky because of this hinge here. I actually had got two of those hinges before I thought about trying to make this into a rumble seat. So actually the work I did up near, I thought that was a waste, but it's going to look this is going to be able to be seen now, so that'll be real nice. And I'm sure two hinges are good for this thing, one on each side. Of course, it's you know, just super flexy right now. I mean, not only is the hinge flexy, but the metal's not braced at all. This is just tin right here. Let me see if I can let it down. It's lucky that my rafter hit in the right place, so it's looks like it's closing, and it closes good here. Okay, that solved all of that. Now I have to get two hinges on it, and I can't put them as is on this car. But it looks like that's low over on that side because it's got a curve to it. It has to be pretty straight, but the center line of the hinges has got to be even here, so you can see it'll be up 3/8, cutting them in half. It looks like I'll have to raise it about 1/2 inch on each side to get these pins, the hinge pins, to line up. Well, anyway, that solved that dilemma, so I can Get this brace now to the curve of the back, and figure out how I'm going to do those hinges, and then I can make a stop down here. Make sure this is going to open and close good. So that's good. Won't have to worry about that thing sticking up so high. This would be a lot easier to make these hinges than it would be try to do that thing down inside. Anyway, so I'll do a little plotting here and see what I can come up with. Well, that's about where the hinge pin's gonna have to go. I can probably lower it a little bit, but it's gonna have to come up about at least 1/4 of an inch on each side. I can think of lots of ways of making a hinge there. Bolting the nut's the most obvious, like what I got sitting here. And then I can make a plate to go from the trunk over. I don't really want to use those hinges there. They don't look very good. Or I can use something like out of a Mustang, you know, where it goes down below, pulls it up. Or I can use an old-timey kind of chrome hinge, pot metal, whatever, you know, 6-7 inches long. That'd probably look the best. Trouble is finding them, and it's not that much trouble to put them on. I mean, I've got industrial King Kong brakes in it. I'll have a King Kong floorboard accelerator pump. I could put a King Kong trunk hinge on it. Make them out of, you know, 1/2-inch bolts like that. Way overkill for a trunk. But I think, you know, it's kind of a classy car, so I think I'll try to find a little classier hinge. I'll take a dig on eBay, see what I can find. Since the hinges are going to be on this side, this was cut up and some holes bored in it. I don't know, I assumed it was for my handle, but God knows what it could have been. It could have been on backwards, and I made it worse backwards. I don't think so. But anyway, this is pretty floppy, and the hinge will be going on this edge. So what I did, I took an 1/8-inch plate in here, and I clamped it across the back. Now what I'm going to do is take a scribe and mark this thing all the way across, so I'll have the curve on it, and then I'm going to put it into here, clamp it, and that'll give me the curve of this top of this trunk. You can tell it's kind of been in here a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit of cutting because that's pretty thick. I don't think I'm going to do it with my plasma cutter. I'm going to scribe it, and I'll just use a cutoff wheel and cut it. That way I can get it pretty straight. See what happens. Piece got cut out good. But boy, I lay it up there on that trunk, and it's like 3/4 of an inch on each end. No, it's not bad here. Well, I marked it here, so it couldn't be bad. Let me clamp it. Well, somehow there I marked it within a couple inches at the middle, and it left the middle up quite a bit. So this time what I've done is I brought the one side down here to where it's right at where the bottom of the top would be, and I've got plenty in the middle. I'm going to take my same 45, scribe it again. This will be a lot easier because I just got to grind it. I don't have to cut it. Might cut it some. That ought to be good enough mark there. It's nowhere near 3/4 of an inch, but I can see that it's almost a 1/2 inch right there in the middle. We'll just grind that off and see what happens. Well, for whatever reason, if I match this up here in the middle, you can see it's pretty bad. And I checked it on the car. It's correct for the car. It just that this is actually bent that much. So, you know, it's pretty straight here on the bottom. It's just twisted. So anyway, I'm gonna put this in here best I can, clamp it good, and give it some tacks and see what it looks like. Well, just getting that piece into the shell was a lot of fun. What it did do, I managed to get it in the middle and clamped. I braced it here on the end so all the weight's on it, and I was able to pound that down, so probably 6 or 8 inches on each side of the middle is pretty much into this. I've still got some floppy here on the end, but I think that's a little low anyway. The other one's about the same. So basically I've got the trunk to the shape of this. I'll have to try to clean it up with a wire brush in there. See what I can do about welding it in, and I don't know what I'll do here. Maybe I'll try to weld it up into this edge here. Not sure, but I could weld it to the trunk lid itself. Hopefully, you know, welding that there on the end or in the middle around both of the ends. That'll do it, and then I can bring this corner in, which is not welded, bring it in tight, weld it. It's going to be kind of hard because I might just put a couple pieces of square right in here. Probably that's what I'll do. Just cut me like that stuff over there, 6 inches or so, about where the hinge is going to go, and weld it in there and weld this outer lip to that. That ought to hold it pretty good. Well, I made that fit real good in the middle, but a lot on each end, so I guess my template was right. I'll try to pull it down as much as I can, and whatever's left I'll have to build up the front there with Bondo. But that's making that trunk fit pretty good across there. Yeah, well, you can see that it's really got to go down on the corners. I'll see what I can do. Well, the way I kind of solved that, I put a piece of metal on top of that curved piece and clamped the trunk to it. Looks like I was able to close the gap up a little bit, and then tacked it. So this side looks like it's pretty closed up already. I'll do the same thing with it. Move my clamp set up over here and tack it. Man, it's pretty good. Well, I stuck that on there to check it, and that matches real good. The other one you can see is kind of high, but this worked out real nice. It's good in the middle, all the way over. So I'll use my clamp a piece of metal, trick in it, and then see if I can get this other one pulled down. Now I got in there and cut that edge off of that trunk, and it was hitting the drip rail. I didn't quite finish it over here in this section, but you can see it went down inside the drip rail, and it's hitting right here, but setting plenty low right now, so I can figure out what kind of hinges I'm going to use, get those sorted out and mounted. I'll get this top part straight, and then put some kind of a stop down in here in the bottom. It's opening up all right. I'm hitting right now. It's hitting here on this edge, but it's got to go forward and up 1/2 inch. So that's what I got to wait on now, is decent hinges. Or figure out some way of making them. I didn't really find any on eBay that I liked, and I could probably make some. Don't know what they'd look like. I can make them out of those nuts and bolts, of course, that wouldn't look too bad. You know, something like this. Or if I had some big, huge gate hinges, you know, like 8-10 inches long, that would work. Don't know, but I'm kind of dead in the water here until I figure out what am I going to do about these hinges. Anyway, the trunk's all braced up, and I know where the hinges got to go now, so we're a lot further along than we were this morning.